You tell me when we're live.
You can go.
Marty. I couldn't think of your first name. I just did.
At this time, I'll call the Committee of Adjustments meeting to order. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. Recordings will be made available on the town's YouTube channel. At this time, if you have any cell phones or devices, please put them on mute. For our committee, anyone with pecuniary interests, please declare them at the appropriate time. I have a motion here from Nettie McEwen, seconded by Jennifer Turk, that the minutes from the regular Committee of Adjustments meeting held April 9th, 2024 be approved. All those in favor? Sure. So severance application for the committee, I'm going to do both the severance application and the minor variance application together since they go hand in hand. So severance application number B-1324, take notice that an application has been made by Bob Rose with respect to the property known as Concession Front Part Lot 225R-8580 Part 1, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 3051 Egremont Road. The applicant is requesting permission to sever a 0.29 hectare, 0.72 acre, single-family residential lot from the balance of the lands. The entire subject property is zoned agricultural 2A2 in the town of Plympton-Wyoming, bylaw 97 of 2003. The remnant farm parcel would not meet the required minimums as per table A of the zoning bylaw. Thus, approval from the consent results in a necessary minor variance. A-1024 to be heard concurrently with this proposal. And that is a minor variance application A-1024. Take notice that an application has been made by Bob Rose with respect to the project known as Concession Front Part Lot 225R-8580 Part 1, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 3051 Egremont Road. The subject property is zoned agricultural 2A2 as per the Town of Plympton-Wyoming bylaw, Wyoming zoning bylaw. Consent application B-1324, which will be heard concurrently with this proposal, is requesting permission to sever 0.29 hectares, 0.72 acres, single-family residential lot from the balance of the lands. The following variances from zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 have been requested. Number one, a variance of 123.3 meters, 404.5 feet to permit the frontage of the retained farm parcel to be 26.7 meters, 87.6 feet, notwithstanding the required minimum frontage of 150 meters, 492 feet as per table A. Number two, a variance of 34.62 hectares, 85.54 acres to permit the approximate area of the retained farm parcel to be 3.38 hectares, 8.35 acres, notwithstanding the required minimum area, 38 hectares, 93.9 acres as per table A. And number three, a variance 0.11 hectares, 0.27 acres to permit the area of the severed residential parcel to be 0.29 hectares, 0.72 acres, notwithstanding the required minimum area of 0.4 hectares, 0.99 acres as per table A. At this time, I will refer to our planner, Randy Burke. And before I get started again, I forgot to introduce everyone, so I'll do that as well. So my apologies. Staff present here today, our planners over there, Senior Planner Maria Cosa Rossi. Randy Burke is one of our planners, Chief Administrative Officer beside me, Adam Sabansky. Lisa Smeekins, our planning technician, and welcome to Mackenzie Baird, our planning technician trainee. He will be taking over. And virtually, I believe, Corinne Nada, Chief Building Official, and she's here, sorry. They did virtually, sorry. Corinne is here. Interim Manager of Planning and Development Services, the County of Plympton, and I'll introduce our committee. To my far right, Councillor Mike Vasey. Beside him, committee member Jennifer Turk. To my left, Deputy Mayor Nettie McEwen. To her left, our committee member Les Goldhawk, and I'm Bruce Moulton, and I'm the chair of this committee. Sorry about that. I was in my. So anyhow, now Randy, it's up to you. Go ahead and give us your report.
Thank you, your chair. So this application is really intended to sever a residential lot off of farmland within the agricultural area. The proposed lands are not within the County of Lambton Growth Official Plan. They are designated restricted agricultural area in the town official plan, as well as zoned agricultural in the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw. The report does go through a number of provisions throughout multiple planning documents, the provincial policy statement, the town OP, county OP, which really does state that, you know, lot creation of a new residential lot shall not be permitted within agricultural areas. Agricultural areas are intended to, you know, support agricultural and be not severed into residential lots ultimately. A conversation was had with the applicant regarding this in terms of that the applications do not meet the general intent of any of the policies or the designations or zonings. However, the applicant felt they wanted to bring the application forward to committee. So therefore, my report really represents, again, that there are not to be lot creation within the agricultural area, and ultimately the variances required would not be deemed minor because the severance is not permitted through the policies. Therefore, my recommendation is denial for both applications, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. This time, Mr. Rose, would you like to speak on your behalf, or do you have Mr. Nesbitt speaking on your behalf?
Nesbitt.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Nesbitt.
Hi, my name's Marty Nisbet. I'm with the firm of Montes and Sutherland Land Surveyors, and I'm here to represent Mr. Rose in his application. I certainly will answer questions. I would like to make a statement that even though this land is zoned agricultural A3, and to meet those regulations, there is no lot within the block bounded by Lakeshore Road, Egremont, Mondawmin, and O'Brien. It meets those current regulations. So this is not unusual to the neighborhood. There are many, what I'll call smaller residential lots. They're large when it comes to residential size, but obviously small when it comes to agricultural size. But none of the lots in the area meet the current regulations. So even though this is undersized, I appreciate that. There's nothing here that we're proposing that's irregular or abnormal to the surrounding neighborhood. Could I ask what committee members have had the opportunity to attend the site? Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. I appreciate that. So obviously you're very familiar with the area, with the residential nature of the area, even though the backland between the lots and Lakeshore Road is in agriculture. I will again say none of the lots, none of the agricultural areas meet the standard. Even the largest plot in the area does not meet the standard that is required under the current zoning regulations. So I propose that this application does not adversely affect the neighborhood or is different from any other residential development in the neighborhood.
Any comments on that, Randy?
No, your chair. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Any members that are in the audience that would like to speak? We do have correspondence from an individual. I know that our committees had an opportunity to read that correspondence. Anyone out there that would like to speak on this application? Go ahead, Brad.
My name's Brad Zanting, JN Ventures Limited, own property just down the street. I agree with Randy's report. 2 comments, Deputy Mayor, at your strategic plan, you brought up there needs to be a line. We need to enforce the line, the line. The line is crystal clear. It's referenced in the report. I also did some digging. I found an interesting old report dated October 19th, 2011 written by Will Nywitting. Doesn't matter. This application chips away at the residential designation. We are concerned that the approval of such applications getting out of hand, as we should generally not be removing lands from agriculture designations. To help ensure a consistent approach to future application, our department would prefer to see some guidelines added to the town's official plan as a precondition of approval of this application. And it goes on. That's been done. The official plan of both the county and the town speak to what needs to happen in this application. Thank you.
Lisa, you had your hand. Is someone on virtually?
There is, the people who submitted correspondence that was provided to the committee and posted on the agenda, are online virtually. Right now, they don't have their microphone on, but, I can see Greg, you've logged in virtually, so if you'd like to speak now would be a good time.
Okay. Greg, if you can hear me, if you turn your microphone on, you have the floor. Notes or anything? Okay, we'll move on then. Thanks, Lisa. If you hear or if he sends you a note, then just let me know. Mr. Nesbitt, sorry, did you have anything else?
Nothing more to add, just to answer questions as required.
Okay, I'm gonna go to our committee. I will start, I guess, with the person with their hand up. I'll start with Deputy Mayor McEwen.
Yeah, I have a question for Randy. Was the applicant advised that when they wanted to have a severance in this property that they actually needed to go through an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment, or I don't understand why this happened like this, that this is out of procedure.
So through your chair, when the applicant came forward, all policies were lined up for them in terms of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. It was stated that eventually a zoning bylaw amendment, as well as official plan amendment, would be required. They wanted to move forward with an application. I have no, authority to withhold that application. I have to bring it forward to committee as it stands. However, if committee were to lean towards approval today, it would be recommended that they be added as conditions or the application be deferred to really assess what would be required for an approval. I brought it forward to outline all the policies within the planning documents to state that this is not permitted, and that was provided to the applicant beforehand.
Okay, so just going backwards, that's all. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't move forward with applications the way you're supposed to. Enough comments from me, thank you.
Anything to add, Adam?
I do believe our planner did advise the applicant of such, and the applicant chose to proceed to this
Yes.
committee.
Okay. Les?
No, I don't have any questions. I agree with the planner's assessment that it is not a minor variance.
Jennifer?
I agree with the planner's report and I agree with Nettie's comments. I just have a comment for you, Randy. You note in your report that it's west of Mandamin Road. This property is located. It's actually east of Mandamin Road, because if you go west of Mandamin Road, then you're in the city of Surrey.
Councilor Basie.
Easy for you to say. Yeah, I'm glad I went out and had a look at this, because by the drawings there, I could not make heads or tails of what was going on. I don't know how this ever got where it's at, where I think there's 7 different lots in whatever the acreage is there, 30 acres, 40 acres. The lot lines don't even line up. I don't know how, it's a nice piece of property, but it's useless on the back end. I understand 100% what you want to do. I just don't know how we get there, because I need the consensus of everyone else in line to, like I say, it's a goofy long lot that, yes, it's a farm, but it's not, and I don't know, I agree with you, it's not. And I said when I was there yesterday that it's how you're gonna sever it. It doesn't meet anything. And then you're taking it off farmland, but it's not even really a farm because there's only 8 acres there, or whatever. Like how it got split the way it did, I don't know.
Was there any, sorry, Mike,
That's
anything
fine,
else?
just-
Was there any thought of bringing it to council and trying to amend the official plan or any of that stuff, Mr. Nesbitt, or?
If that's what's necessary, we could certainly consider that. I'll discuss it with my client, but at this point, that seemed to be a very long involved process, and we were hoping through committee, we might get granted our severance as it, I agree, it's not minor in nature. And I reiterate that none of the lots in this entire block meet current standards. So they're all basically legal non-conforming, and we're hoping that this additional addition of a residential lot will not change the current agricultural, it will not change existing cultivation. It will be basically severing off the lot that's there and has been there. The house was built in the early 60s. It's been there. It's not cultivated, and we're not going beyond what's existing as grass versus the cultivated area.
Brad, did you have something to add?
Just a quick follow-up. Correct me if I'm wrong, this application to proceed before we get to a local OP amendment, it would need a county OP
Yes.
amendment first.
So through your chair, that was advised to the applicant that, I'm not sure the timeline on this, but, eventually the county official plan will go through an update in which the growth boundary will be looked at, although as stated that may be a timeline that is undetermined, but it was advised that that would be the first requirement to get into the county official plan growth boundary before moving to the town.
Great, thank you. Anything to add, committee members? All right, I have a motion by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Ned McEwen, that the report by Randy Burke dated May 6th, 2024 be received, and that consent application B-1324 requesting to sever approximately 0.29 hectares, 0.72 acres to create a single-family residential lot from the balance of the lands municipally known as 3051 Egremont Road be denied, as the application does not meet the policies surrounding lot creation in the agricultural area. I call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Also have minor variance moved by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Les Goldhawk, minor variance application A-1024, requesting relief from 3 provisions from the town of Plympton-Wyoming zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 be denied, as the request does not maintain the general intent of the official plan or zoning bylaw policies and cannot be deemed minor in nature. I call that question. All those in favor? That is carried. So once again, both have been denied. There is a 20-day appeal period, which after that or during that time, have discussions with our planners or with our technicians to find out what other information or what you would need to do further after that. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next minor variance application. A-1124, take notice that an application is made by Wanstead Farmers Cooperative Co-op Limited with respect to the property known as Concession 2 Lot 25 Part 3, Town of Plympton, Wyoming, 5493 Elevator Street. The subject property is zoned Rural Commercial 3 C3. The following variance has been requested for the proposed overhead bins. Number 1, a variance of 3.39 meters, 11.2 feet, to permit the side yard setback from the railway to be 0.61 meters, 2 feet, notwithstanding the minimum side yard setback is 4 meters, 13.12 feet, as per table A of the zoning bylaw 97 of 2003. At this time, I'll ask our planner, Randy Burke, would you like to give us a report?
Sure. Thank you, your chair. So the designation of the lot is unserviced hamlet area. The lot is located through Wanstead Farmers Cooperated, and in unserviced hamlet areas, it does include uses such as agriculture as well as limited commercial commercial areas as well as public facilities, which this would be deemed under, and the zoning on the property is rural commercial. During pre-consultation with Wanstead Farmers, it was determined that there was no site plan on file for this location. Therefore, based on the proposed changes, a condition of the severance would, or the minor variance would be to go through a site plan application, which could address concerns such as the proximity to the railway there. When looking at a minor variance, we do look at the 4 tests, such as is a requested variance minor? It is deemed that the property is designated and zoned for the request. Currently, when you go to the site visit, there is a road there, and the overhead grain bins would be located on the road that is kind of pre-existing on the area, so therefore it was deemed to be minor. Is the general intent and purpose of the official plan. As mentioned, it's an unserviced settlement area. It is within the boundaries of the Wanstead area. So therefore, the official plan would be maintained. And then is the general intent and purpose of the bylaw maintained? So it is zoned rural commercial, which is including agricultural supply establishment, which Wanstead Farmers can be deemed to be one. As mentioned, it will go through site plan approval, which can address any of the concerns in proximity to the railway. CN was circulated on the report, and they did not provide any form of comment on the report, and therefore it can be deemed appropriate and desirable. As mentioned, it is kind of a pre-existing road, and the overhead bins aren't intended to have any impact on the surrounding neighbors, since it is a pretty secluded area. Therefore, I am recommending approval with the conditions located in the report.
Okay, thank you. Our applicant, Mr. Kelly, would you like to speak? Or have anything to add to Randy's report?
Don't really have a lot to add, but I'd like to thank the council for their consideration on this application. As you can see from the drawing, it's just a corner that is approaching the property line, and it doesn't change any of the traffic flow in the site. The impact for us is expedience in getting the trucks loaded and out of there. Likely would minimize a bit of dust and any traffic backlogs we might otherwise have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, do we have any correspondence on this application?
No, we did not receive any written correspondence on this application. As Randy noted, CN was provided the notice and the application as well. And we didn't receive any correspondence from them either.
Thank you. Is there anyone here speaking to this application that is in the audience, or anyone virtually? Okay, I'll move to my committee. Councillor Bailey.
I have no issues. Thank you.
Jennifer.
I don't have a problem with what's being proposed. The only question I have is making sure that the site plan is approved before a building permit is issued. Because with something like this, there are residential dwellings that are nearby. So there needs to be some consideration given to those residents that are over there that would have to deal with offsite impact.
Mayor McEwen.
Yeah, it looks like these proposed bins are going to be like on laneway.
So the laneway currently, if you see where the silos are to the left, there are spouts that come out of the silos to load the trucks. The problem is when you're below the level of the side spout, then you have to move the grain all around to get it out, and it's very inefficient. Whereas with the overhead bins, we can move it to what's called the leg that would drop it into the overhead bins and be expedient about loading the trucks.
Thank you.
No, I didn't. It appeared when I did the site visit that the shed to the east is actually closer to the tracks than these proposed bins one. I wasn't sure whether or not the setback is actually taking into account the defunct rails that used to service that shed, so. But I don't have an issue with.
Anything for that?
And all that can be addressed at site plan as well. Like in terms of the setback of the previous structures that are on the property.
Okay. I have a motion by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Les Goldhawk, that the report by Randy Burke, planner, dated May 7th, 2024, be received, and minor variance application A-1124, requesting a variance of 3.39 meters, 11.12 feet, to permit the side yard setback from the railway to be 0.61 meters, 2 feet, notwithstanding the required minimum side yard setback is 4 meters, 13.12 feet, as per table A of the zoning bylaw 97 of 2003, be approved with the following conditions. 1, to ensure grading is maintained on your property and that it does not affect neighboring properties, including railway, and grading is maintained accordingly and within your own property boundaries, no exceptions. Number 2, building permit required. Applicant to apply for building permit and comply with all requirements and prescribed by the Ontario Building Code and to the satisfaction of the County of Lambton Building Services Department. And number 3, the applicant enters into a site plan agreement with the town of Plympton-Wyoming. I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. As you've heard, there's a 20-day appeal period. During that, you cannot do any construction or whatever, just be in contact with Lisa and she'll let you know or if you have any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're ahead of schedule, so we can wait about 3 minutes.
provided.
Minor variance application number A-1224. Take notice an application has been made by Donna Jones with respect to the property known as Plan 32 Part Lot 8, Town of Plympton, Wyoming, 8031 Hillsborough Road. The subject property is zoned residential 5, R5, and hazard area H. The following variance has been requested for the proposed accessory building garage. 1, a relief to permit the garage to be located in the front yard, notwithstanding section 3.3.3A of the zoning bylaw 97 of 2003. At this time, we'll refer to our planner, Randy Burke. Give us her report.
Thank you, your chair. So yep, this is a minor variance application looking to put a accessory structure within the front yard of the lot. The lot, if you went in for the site visit, is kind of oddly shaped. And therefore it is also zoned to be residential, as well as has a hazard overlay in the rear of the property. So therefore, kind of this is the most appropriate location for it in terms of the zoning. The property is also designated restricted agricultural within the town of Plympton, Wyoming official plan. However, it is located within the county growth boundary. I go through the 4 tests for any minor variance, of course. So is the requested variance minor? The proposed detached structure is permitted within both the designation and the zoning. And it doesn't seem that there will be any adverse impacts. In fact, there are currently 2 accessory structures on the lot that will come down for this new structure, so we can deem it minor. Is the general intent and purpose of the official plan maintained? Again, the property is designated restricted agriculture, which does permit accessory structures to a dwelling, so therefore the general intent is maintained. And is the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw maintained? It is zoned residential, an accessory structure is permitted, and the fact that the 2 other sheds will be removed for this proposal meets the general intent. The Conservation Authority was also contacted to comment, in which I provided the comments for you guys, but the structure is located entirely outside of their area, as well as no permit from them will be required for the building. So based on that, I am recommending approval with the conditions of the report.
Thank you. Larry Donna? Larry, would you have anything to add to Randy's report?
Just a garage, I guess. We have two sheds there, but they're gonna get removed, and I just want to have a garage for all my lawn tractors and golf cart and stuff like that. That's all it's for.
Did we receive any correspondence, Lisa?
No, we did not receive any correspondence pertaining to this application.
And do we have anyone else out in the audience or virtually that was application? Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll refer to our committee. This time I'll start with Jennifer Turk. Jennifer, any questions?
I just have questions regarding what the permitted uses are in our hazard zone, because I don't see where accessory structures are actually permitted.
So I would take the comments by the Conservation Authority into consideration when referring to that. They had no issues with the accessory structure, therefore I deemed it minor in nature and with the general intent.
But our zoning bylaw doesn't say it's a permitted use. Accessory structures.
So in the residential zone, kind of how I guess the zoning bylaw can be read. The hazard can be deemed an overlay with the R5 under it. Again, I would take the Conservation Authority and then use those that are residential 5 permitted uses. So that's kind of how I did my assessment.
Councilor Basie?
I have no issues.
Yes.
No, visually, like I know planning wise, it says it's the front yard, but visually from Hillsborough. It was like the side yard to me, so, I mean, I don't have any issues, but.
Okay, Deputy Mayor McEwen.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to determine where this hazard line and the hazard area is, but you know, if the Conservation Authority doesn't have a problem with it, then I'm fine with it.
Okay. Well, I have a motion by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Les Gold. That the report by Randy Burke, planner, dated May 6, 2024, be received, and that minor variance application A-1224 to permit a detached accessory structure to be located in the front yard of the subject property be approved, subject to the following conditions. Number one, a certified lot grading plan be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming and approved by the town prior to permit issuance. Number two, final grading plan certificates submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming upon final completion and subject to the town's final approval. Number three, building permit required, applicant to apply for a building permit and comply with all requirements and prescribed by the Ontario Building Code and to the satisfaction of the County of Lambton Building Services Department. Number four, demolition permit required for the removal of existing structures and they shall be removed prior to new construction. Number five, ensure eaves troughs, downspouts, and grading are maintained accordingly and within owned property boundaries with no exceptions. And number six, ensure the property is generally maintained and drained during the construction process, and that drainage waters are not diverted to the neighboring properties, and that weeds and grass are always maintained within 20 centimeters, 8 inches or less. We'll call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. As you've heard, there's a 20-day appeal period. During that time, you can have conversations with Lisa and whatnot, but no construction until after the appeal period is done.
Yeah, I have to wait 20 days.
Yes.
Okay. Great. But I can still call and I got questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Lisa would be more than happy to answer your questions
Okay.
throughout that time.
Okay.
And she can let you know, or when you call, she'll let you know the date. Once again, we are ahead of time. If we can have a
Yeah, I just want to ask question.
concerning this, or
Well, yeah, but it's just an afterthought.
so
That
on
was
live
nothing to
or
do- Oh, I don't care if anybody hears what I ask.
go ahead.
If, do they actually have, what's the size of a shed, if they're going to demolish it or move it off the property? Do they need a demolition permit if they're smaller than what a building permit is required? Like, if they don't need a building permit for this size of a shed, why would they need a demolition permit to get rid of it?
Well, they need a building permit for the
For
size
the
of
big
the
one?
shed. Yes, for the new one.
Oh, yeah.
The other ones will have to assess based on size.
Oh, the size is on here, so it's 14.864 square meters.
Times two.
Yeah, times two, but each building would not probably require a building permit, correct? So why would we want them to have a demolition permit for it? Just remove them, you know what I mean?
Right. But we do them as demolition permits and put them through to do the MPAC 357 form and put them through the
Okay.
process, so they'll come off the tax roll.
All right.
appropriately. And so they'll also be removed prior to the variance, getting the building permit for the next one.
Okay.
Yep.
I just.
Yep, it's a valid question.
We can go on a break. think that it's just ticking down right now to the, yeah, 506.
It is live now.
When we're live, okay. All right, we will resume. Minor variance application A-1324. Take notice that an application has been made by Roy Boersma with respect to the property known as Concession 9, Part Lot 10, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 6714 Augusta Street. The subject property is zoned residential 5, R5, and hazard area H. The following variance has been requested for the proposed accessory building garage. A variance of 0.65 meters, 2.13 feet to permit a proposed cathedral ceiling with maximum main floor ceiling height of 5.05 meters, 16.57 feet, notwithstanding the maximum permitted main floor ceiling height of 4.4 meters, 14.44 feet, as per minor variance A-1223 granted on April 11th, 2023, being a variance of the maximum permitted main floor ceiling height of 3.1 meters, 10.17 feet, as per subsection 3.3.4B4(1) of the zoning bylaw 97 of 2003. At this time, I will refer to our planner, Randy Burke, for her report.
Thank you, your chair. Yes, so as mentioned, the applicant came forward in April 2023 for minor variances for the kind of total accessory structure itself. And then he came back with wanting a kind of higher inside ceiling. Throughout my report, I kind of mentioned that when you go for your site visit, the structure is currently being constructed. By this minor variance, it will not change the exterior of the structure. It won't have any other impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. It's really just the internal height of the structure, so therefore it's not deemed that this can be deemed minor in nature, and the 4 tests that were associated in the previous application would still withstand. An accessory structure is allowed within both the zoning and the designation of this property, and therefore I am recommending approval with that following condition that it can't be used for habitable space or any commercial industrial uses.
Great, thank you. Mr. Boersma, anything to add?
No, not so much. Sounds of.
I assume you started.
The ceiling ended up being an average of less than what I had got on the variance before, like an average, but. There was 3 words there that. I went above, right, with a peak. And actually it was quite innocent because I went to get trusses. A price, and the guy said, why don't you go with cathedral? And I have many different cathedrals in my house. And I went, yeah, sure, that sounds good. Not thinking that I exceeded the peak. The average is actually below whatever, the 4.4, but yeah, the peak, so I'm back. Maybe asking. There is a couple other little things, though, when we're done with this, I'd like to discuss with you.
Sure.
Right. Because it was quite a learning curve going through all of this in the building. Yeah, quite a bit. I learned quite a bit about the little things that happen when you go to do something. Anyways, yeah.
Okay, sure. Lisa, I know we did receive correspondence on this application. I believe our committee has had the opportunity to read that correspondence. It is in favor of this application. Anyone else here that would like to speak of or for or about this application, or anyone virtually?
No one virtually is connecting right now, so they must not be for this.
Perfect. I'll go to my committee. I'll start with Les.
Yeah, there's no issue, like when I heard that the roof is basically the height is what was permitted before. After doing the site visit, it did concern me that it was it looked like it was after the fact, so. But as far as the the request right now, I don't have an issue.
Great. Deputy Mayor McEwen?
Yeah, when I went and looked at it too, I thought you had built higher on without permission, like accidentally put it higher than it was, but the peak is at the right height, am I correct? It's just ceiling that's gotta be, okay. Yeah. So, but I thought you would build higher than you were supposed to, and then come back here to ask forgiveness.
No, not for height, it's just interior ceiling, which my neighbors got another letter for the interior that they'll never see, well, unless they come over and visit.
That's all.
Okay, Jennifer?
No, I'm good.
Councillor Basie?
No, I have no issues. This is one of those dumb ones that I think we should. Who cares what the height inside is?
Interior height. I'm sure one of the learning things that you've learned is that when you make changes on the inside of a building would be that then you have to come and pay the money to come to a committee of adjustments again. So, yeah.
Really?
Hey, you pay to learn, right?
I would assume. All right, if there's no other questions, I have a motion by Nettie McEwen, seconded by Mike Vasey, that the report by Randy Burke, planner dated May 6, 2024 be received, and that minor variance application A-1324 to permit a variance of 0.65 meters, 2.13 feet, permit a proposed cathedral ceiling with maximum main floor ceiling height of 5.05 meters, 16.57 feet, notwithstanding the maximum permitted main floor ceiling height of 4.4 meters, 14.44 feet, as per minor variance A-1223 granted on April 11th, 2023, being a variance from the maximum permitted main floor ceiling height of 3.1 meters of 10.17 feet, as per subsection 3.3.4B41 of the zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 be approved subject to the following conditions. And just one for the detached accessory structure, no personal storage and use only, no habitable space, no livestock permitted, no commercial or industrial uses permitted. I will call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried, and as you've heard tonight, there's a 20-day appeal period. I guess my question would be, you're probably in the midst of construction, so I'm not sure, Lisa, how, I guess legally he isn't supposed to continue construction, or
He would need to wait until the appeal period is complete. Until then, his height can only be what was previously accepted by the last variance.
I don't plan on I got a lot of work on the outside, let alone getting to the interior ceiling. Don't worry, it'll be more than 20 days. Before I touch the interior ceiling.
you had some comments or some?
Yeah, a couple little things, and I noticed on a previous one, it was a bit of my first variance. I didn't really know how things went so well. And after the fact, of course, when you drive away, you go, well, why this and why that, right? And there was previous planners at the time, and I had mentioned to them, why do we not have in Plympton-Wyoming a retainer, right? Because it is very inconvenient to demolish a garage before you build a new garage, right? Like I have many things, including a little old sports car, whatever, many different things, tools and whatever else that can't just go sitting outside, right? But I just noticed on a previous one that you have to demo your garage before you can build a garage. There's many other municipalities around here, right, that a retainer. Now, if you had a certain dollar value for the amount of square footage, let's say you had a 15 by 20 garage, right? And you're going to build a bigger garage that took up most of your detached area. That's another subject. But that you couldn't give like so much per square foot, $10,000 retainer that you'd hang on to guarantee that it will get demolished, right? Like I can see that you don't want to have both structures on because that goes against your rules. But if you had a large enough value of a retainer that the person would want to get his money back to get rid of the older one, right? Well, and you do have the clout to make them do it. You could send somebody in there and have it demolished and use up the retainer. Just make sure you got enough retainer, right? If you had to pay somebody to do it, if they end up being a stubborn person, you might say, in the community. But but I still, and I had mentioned it to them, and the last planning people or whatever that were here before, and they said, yeah, well, we'll bring that up at a variance, whatever, with the people, but I noticed that it's still there. And that's a very difficult thing. Like, hey, I had to put a temporary shelter in, and I was straightforward, and I told him, I says, hey, that garage goes down. It was 90 years old. Amazing that it was as good as it was, but there will be a temporary shelter, shelter logic things, right in the exact same spot. Right, and it'll go when the new garage is done, there's no doubt about it, but it's a temporary, and I believe that's allowed. Whatever, I didn't get any flack over that one, but it's a very inconvenient thing that would be very easily handled with a retainer.
Yeah, and
because it's a difficult thing for somebody that's, right, if it's in the same spot, well, that's a no-brainer, you have to demolish it, but.
I'll let Adam go through that. I know in the past, though, we have done that before. We have taken, I think the town really has done retainers before.
Specifically for dwellings.
It's not a clause that you can find in there, and there's many different things that were a surprise to the demolition permit. All of a sudden, $1,000 retainer. Okay. There was no previous knowledge of that. Like, that was not until the bill came out. And I was fine with it. I ended up getting it back, whatever. But that was that should be brought to a person's attention when they're doing something. You're going to get a demo permit. Well, there's going to be a deposit, whatever. And I was fine, but there was no previous, heads up on it or whatever else, right?
I'll let Adam speak on that.
We'll definitely work with staff to make sure that we're mentioning the fees to specifically property owners who may not be familiar with the planning processes in our initial discussions. In regards to allowing a structure to stay in place while another is built, council as a whole does allow for that through an agreement with council. It's mostly intended for dwellings. In my time, I've never known it to be used for accessory structures, but planning staff and admin staff can review to see if that's something that could be accommodated, provided sufficient space in the site to do so. Because the infrastructure of the bylaw, the agreement is already there. It would just be a minor amendment to include
another paragraph,
dwellings,
whatever, toss it in there somewhere.
Possibly. So we'll definitely sit down and have a quick look at that to see if that's a possibility, and then council can decide if that's supportable or not when the time comes.
Go ahead. I'll give you one more.
Give me one more shot. Anyways, there's one other little thing that I was kind of curious about is if I had a 1/4 acre lot, right, I'm only allowed 1,000 square foot detached building, right? I have over 3/4 of an acre and I'm still only allowed 1,000 square foot, right? Well, that's a lot more property to maintain and everything else. I could see the 1,000 square foot as a one building, but if there would be, because of your lot is so large, why couldn't there be one other detached building, like a garden shed kind of, you know what I mean? Right? To me, it seems kind of how that rule is, it's 10% of your lot size, but in a 1/4 acre, you could have 1,000 square foot. And I've got 0.82 acres and I can only have 1,000 square feet. Now, in one building, I could see, but to have a smaller structure, right? Like that's something, and it's not in anything, like it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Your lot is that much larger, but you're restricted to something like that, right?
And that's come to our committee many times.
I would think it would, yeah.
So I know that I believe it was even looked after under the official plan. I believe that was one of the considerations with bigger lots and whatnot. Randy, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that.
So through your chair, I guess it would depend on the ins and outs of the specific property, but rural residential lots, the ones that are zoned A1, A2, less than, I think, 2 hectares, they do have a permitted like, accessory size, so it's a maximum ground floor area that is larger than what is permitted on lots that are designated or zoned residential. And that's why we do have that 10% of your lot area to, it is up
To a certain maximum though, that's where it comes in. 10%'s good, but it's to a maximum of 1,000 square feet. It's not 10% of your lot. So it doesn't, the bigger the lots, not the bigger the, right?
And I guess that I would recommend for you, when we do our zoning bylaw amendment, to come out and speak out about this, you know, that you feel strongly about this specific provision, and I think that.
Strongly, it's just something that it'd be a lot nicer for the taxpayer if, you know, if it was a little more forgiving, you might say, for the size of the lot and what have you, right? I have neighbors that have very small lots and, well, the garages are the max, you know what I mean? Right? But a lot of this was done in the past.
Great, thank you, Mr. Boersma. Good, we're gonna start our next application. Minor variance application number A-1424. Take notice that an application is made by B.M. Ross and Associates for the Lambton Kent District School Board, respectively the property known as Concession Front Part Lot 18 and Plan 2 Lots 20 to 26 Part Lot 18, Part Lot 19 East, Main Lots 15 to 18 West, Colburn RP 25R-4988, Part 1, 2, Site Row, Part 1, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, 3568 Egremont Road. The subject property is zoned institutional 1, L1. The resident and residential 5R5. The following variants from zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 have been requested for the proposed fence, retaining wall and sheds. Number 1, a variance of 1.45 meters, 4.76 feet to permit the setback from center of water main of the proposed retaining wall to be 1.55 meters, 5.09 feet, notwithstanding the minimum setback from center of water main of 3 meters, 9.84 feet as per subsection 3.16.2b. Number 2, a variance of 0.84 meters, 2.76 feet to permit the setback from center of water main of proposed fence to be 2.16 meters, 7.09 feet, notwithstanding the minimum setback from center of water main 3 meters, 9.84 feet as per subsection 3.16.2b. And number 3, a variance of 0.84 meters, 2.76 feet to permit the setback from center of water main of proposed sheds to be 2.16 meters, 7.09 feet, notwithstanding the minimum setback from center of water main of 3 meters, 9.84 feet as per subsection 3.16.2b. 15, I have, yeah. So at this time, I'll refer to our planner, Randy.
Your chair. So this application came in from the Lambton Kent District School Board. BM Ross is their agent in regards to, they are looking to do an amendment to their site plan application that they do have on file for an addition. Through the review of that, it was determined that minor variances would be required for the proposed structures, the retaining wall, the sheds and the fence. Whenever you do a minor variance, you go through the 4 tests, of course. Is the general intent and purpose, or I'm missing one. Oh, is the requested variance minor? Overall, with comments received from various departments such as Public Works, which is addressed in the report, as well as it is designated service hamlet area, which does permit an institutional use such as a school, as well as the zone of the property is institutional, which does permit a school, as well as where the parking lot is, it is designated R5 in the zoning. So therefore, it is determined that the request can be deemed minor. So is the general intent and purpose of the official plan maintained? As mentioned, it is designated service hamlet area and does permit institutional uses that meet the surrounding neighborhoods, and therefore the school is within there, and these accessory structures are intended to serve and help the school kind of run. And then third, is the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw maintained? This is where it was determined through comments from Public Works, as well as the town does have an easement on the property for the water main of 3 meters. None of the structures are intended to be located on the easement. As well as you can see, in the site plan agreement, it will state that Lambton Kent District School Board is responsible for any costs associated with removing and reinstalling retaining wall, sheds, and fence if they were damaged or had to be removed to facilitate any water main repairs or maintenance in the future, and will be dealt with further in the site plan application. And then
So through the site plan application, it'll also be required that the engineer for the school board designs the retaining wall in such a manner that if there's a water main needs to be repaired, that we are not undermining the retaining wall, and vice versa. When the retaining wall is constructed, they're doing so in a manner that will not undermine our water main.
And that is a condition, that drawing of the minor variance of the approval in the report. And then finally, it can be deemed appropriate and desirable for the area with the conditions outlined in the report.
Great, thank you. Oh, I believe we have some folks virtually. Lisa, any correspondence prior to having those individuals speak? I believe it's Mr. Folkens and Mr. McKay, I believe.
No correspondence was received. Mr. Folkens is virtual. He is the agent for the application. If he has any details further to Randy's report, he can probably add them now.
Okay, if you'd like to speak or anything to add to Randy's report, go ahead.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add. Thank you to staff for their cooperation, their help with this process. I think Randy summarized everything pretty well. Our engineers have had discussions with Public Works staff about those conditions of approval, or the recommended conditions of approval, and we really see no issues with that. So I'm joined here by Don Mass as well from the school board. So if there's any questions, I'm sure we could address them, but I think that is all we have today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I will refer to our committee at this time. If there's any questions, go ahead, Jennifer.
I don't have any.
Okay. Councillor Vasey.
Darn. No, my concern was addressed with the clause that they're gonna repair it if we wanted to rip it out and all that stuff. As long as they're paying for it, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
So I noticed during that conversation, hence why I brought it up when Randy was speaking, that although the 5th recommendation is in the recommendation portion of the report, it did not make it onto the motion. So if the mover and seconder are willing to amend the motion to include recommendation number 5 from the report, that would be appreciated. So just read that right up here.
All right. Deputy Mayor McEwen.
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question. There's needs to be lots of property there. Why are we asking for variances of 2-3 feet? Seems to be lots of variances wouldn't be needed.
The question would be to Jordan, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to the councillor. This is really just to maximize the space. There's going to be a daycare at the back of the building, and this is to push the buildings right up to the limit of the easement, so that the teachers and supervisors have adequate sight lines to view the children and to maximize their play area.
Yeah, that's fine. Number 5.
Okay, Les, did that answer your question?
It did in a way that I hear the reasoning for it. I just didn't hear the reason why any variances would be needed with the amount of property that's there.
Through the chair, is there a site plan that can be put on the screen at all?
I know when this project started before I was in this role, and I know that the school board is trying to cluster their infrastructure together in that one area. If they were to move it out towards the western portion of their property, which is currently green space, they'd be required to move the whole parking lot, and possibly would result in the buildings not being able to be connected due to a water main and stormwater infrastructure in the area. So that's why they're pushing it as far north as they can.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing where they've got it. I guess I'm just looking at the amount that, like, of a variance that's being requested. Very minimal in there to property that's there for the school. I'm delaying this, I don't really have an issue, it's just that kind of question came to my mind.
Thank you. At this time, I have a motion by Jennifer Turk, seconded by Mike Vasey, that the report by Randy Burke, planner, dated May 6, 2024, be received, and that minor variance application A-1424 to permit the construction of accessory structures, variance of 0.084 meters to permit a setback of 2.16 meters for the construction of a fence and 2 sheds, and a variance of 1.44 meters for a setback of 1.45 meters for the construction of a retaining wall, notwithstanding the minimum 3-meter setback from the municipal drain on the lands municipally known as 3568 Egremont Road, be approved with the following conditions. 1, a certified lot grading plan be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming and approved by the town prior to permit issuance. Number 2, final grading plan certificate be submitted to the town of Plympton-Wyoming upon final completion and subject to the town's final approval. Number 3, building permit required. Applicant to apply for a building permit and comply with all requirements and prescribed by the Ontario Building Code and to the satisfaction of the County of Lambton Building Services Department. Number 4, undergo an amendment to site plan agreement between Lambton Kent District School Board, Town of Plympton-Wyoming, and the applicant will provide an engineered solution for the retaining wall so that it shows it will not adversely impact the town water main. The solution must be made to the satisfaction of the town of Plympton-Wyoming Public Works Department and will be included as a schedule in the site plan amendment. Call the question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. And once you've heard tonight, it's a 20-day appeal period. Any information that you would like to get, you can talk to our technician, Lisa, or ask our planners.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, let's move on with our meeting. I have some business arising. Just getting my agenda here. Some old business. So comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment. Lisa?
So a couple of meetings ago, I was asked to put that as a standing item on the agenda, just to keep reminding our committee to, if things come to mind that should be addressed when that comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment is done, that we will start compiling a list. So if anyone has any ideas, we'll take them and we'll keep a ongoing list going. If no ideas are up at this time, we'll just leave it as a standing item so that if anything comes to mind, we can address it.
Take Mr. Belisma's ideas.
We can also, since then, I have had a chance to look through some old decisions. There have been situations where we did allow a previous building to stay even as an accessory building. For example, there was 2 in 2020, one in which we required that the accessory building be taken down within 6 months of the new one being built. There was another one that we kept a $5,000 retainer to guarantee that. So it is something that we have done in the past. So it's done on like a case-by-case basis.
How do you know here? You can get that if it's a case by case and it's not written.
I think it must have been things that the applicants requested, and then the
Correct.
considered at that time.
I was here for some of those and it was by the applicant, and I guess it was a situation where they were, you know, similar to what you wanted to keep their stuff in there until whatever, and then a retainer was.
Like the young fellow over here that's He's going through the same thing.
Yeah.
All the garden equipment's, you gotta demo everything before you can start to build a new one. Same thing. The fellow was here earlier.
Their building is where the sheds currently
Yeah,
are.
they can't.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, they can't keep it.
In the hazardous area.
Go ahead, Adam.
So because this has been very informal and because of that informal nature, it was missed for your situation. I think it'd be best that we look to amend the existing agreement that allows the secondary dwellings to remain in place. For periods of time, include accessory structures to be included in that, and then have a policy on when that can be utilized, that council can endorse, and therefore it set out all staff and new staff are aware of the policy, and then it is also can be made more aware easily to the applicants.
Jennifer?
So this is a question for Corinne. Can you not do that through a temporary zoning bylaw?
Through planners, you can do it through temporary use. However, let's remember all these processes add days.
Sure.
Depending on agendas, right? So someone that's in their
Sure.
period then, and then we have to talk about the order of operations. Should we be making it a condition on a variance that essentially ties the hands of council to enter into agreement? So those are all things we're gonna have to visit before we come back to committee with a solution.
Anything else from the committee?
So just a further update in regards to the comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment, the county of Plympton has, in conjunction with the town of Plympton-Wyoming, Warwick and Point Edward, have entered into an agreement with NPG Planning Solutions to provide an update to our comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment. We are going to be having a kickoff meeting early next week by the looks of it, to start that process. So the process will be commencing very shortly, and we're hoping that we can complete it at latest early next year.
All right, I'm gonna move on to previous business. So we have a supplemental motion, number 8. I'm gonna refer to our senior planner, Maria Rosa Cosa. Oh, sorry, Cosi. Sorry, Maria. To discuss the supplemental motion. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. So we have before us a request for a validation certificate. This seeks only to restore previously existing lot lines that were inadvertently merged. So recently, this property in question was previously severed back in 2021. It was approved by the committee at that time. And the property, both the severed and the retained lot, were sold to a couple. And shortly thereafter, within a year, MPAC reassessed the properties, and the roll number that was assigned to one of the parcels was removed. So GIS mapping and MPAC mapping show that as on the screen, part 2 and part 3 are actually one lot, even though there was a previous consent application that was approved. So there is an individual who has purchased just recently part 2 and went to apply for a building permit, and it was discovered at that time that there was an issue. So the lawyer, the applicant's lawyer, has submitted a letter explaining the situation as well, just confirming the details. And Mr. O'Mani is online for additional questions. There is, because no new lot is being created, there is no recommendation, there is no requirement under the Planning Act for a notice and submission requirements as you would normally find through the consent process. This is merely to correct a planning breach so that the registrar, the land registrar, can recognize that the property was actually severed and it is a separate conveyable lot. And that this will then correct any issues on title and allow the individual to then apply for a building permit for a single family detached dwelling, because the property in question specifically is a vacant lot at this time.
Great. Mr. O'Mani, anything to add to Maria's report?
No, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much to the staff as well for working very hard and diligently to get this on as quick as possible. But no, that is exactly what we're looking to do today.
Deputy Mayor McKeon.
No, I have no questions. I understand this happens.
Okay. Les?
No, I didn't see any paperwork on this. It's just,
It's supplemental, that was, so we didn't have to, sorry, just to speak on behalf of Lisa, they didn't have to give notice because it was a supplemental report, so it came in our email yesterday, I believe, or today, was it today, Lisa?
It was late yesterday, it's probably about 24 hours ago. That's when our supplementary agendas need to be out by, it's at least 24 hours before the meeting, so it's probably just before 5 yesterday, the agenda was emailed out. I apologize, I should have followed up with you to make sure that you got it, just because I know everyone on this committee doesn't always check their town emails, since these agendas are what you guys look at these emails for, and you had already received the original one, so in the future, should we have a supplementary, I will follow up.
Anything else, Les? Jennifer? Or Basie? Just to be upfront, the question that I asked Lisa, was there any way that we could not do this again? And I don't think that there is really an answer for that, so we may be back here again doing these supplemental. So my other question, I guess it's to to Lisa, will the 20-day appeal period still be in effect for this?
No, for this type of application, as it's a certificate of validation, there is no appeal period applied. So we'll be able to sign the certificate of validation and I will send it to the lawyers tomorrow and it can be registered right away.
Maria?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it has an immediate effect once it's signed. In terms of, so it doesn't follow the standard requirements for consent because it already has gone through the process. It already did, had its public notification. It went through the approval process. And so it's to streamline it. This is a mechanism to streamline this process because it does happen quite frequently. And usually it's happening when people are moving onto the properties. So it's just to expedite it and not make it so onerous when this happens for the applicants to have to go through that whole consent process again, when it already has gone through the public process.
Great. Anything else from our committee? Okay, I have a motion by Danny McEwen, seconded by Jennifer Turk, that the report by Maria Cosa Rossi, Senior Planner, dated May 13th, 2024, regarding request for validation certificate for part lot 22 concession front, being part 2 on plan 25R-10605 be received, and that the Committee of Adjustment approve the certificate of validation to correct the breach of the Planning Act. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Mani.
Thank
We're
you very much.
happy that you're able to get that done as quick as possible for the new owners.
Thank you.
All right, I have some new business here. So new business that I have is detailed texts in meeting minutes and linking YouTube videos, and that was on our new business agenda. Lisa, anything to add? I've written down the 4 add-ons to that. I don't know if I need to read those in front of our committee members, or you've all had the opportunity to read those. Anything to add to this, Lisa?
Nope, this was a decision that was passed by council on April 25th. The minutes that were included in this agenda were prior to that date, so they still were detailed. In the future, you will be seeing a lot less information in the minutes because people do have access to the videos. The videos will stay up for 4 years now. They used to, previous ruling was that we were only going to keep them for 1 year. So instead of having detailed minutes, we are going to keep our videos for longer. There is some caveats, things like items brought up in new business that weren't on the agenda. Those will be included in the minutes. And then as well, if there's members of the public that speak. So our minutes will probably be more detailed than other committees because we do have quite a bit of public involvement. But it might be, again, smaller notes about it. We will know who speaks and their addresses and maybe a brief summary of what they say, whereas right now we can include quite a bit of information. And all of our minutes will now have a link to the YouTube video So that when you go to the minutes on our website, you can go directly to the video for that meeting without having to search YouTube for it.
And will it be also, just a question, will it be, are you guys backing that up somehow on your own computers or the computers? So we're assuming that YouTube will be on forever and that will be,
So, the Robert's Rules of Order are kind of the general rules of how to do minute taking. And so it stipulates that you don't want an excessive amount of information. You want the motion and what was carried. So that stuff will all still be included. We will still have all the motions. We'll keep the original copies of the motions as well. So all the actual decisions and stuff will still be kept. It'll just be the details of what was actually said at the meeting, that if anything were to happen to those videos, that would be lost. But the decisions that are made at the committee meeting, those will all be retained both in physical copies and saved in multiple places at the town.
okay. Any questions from our committee? Perfect. Any other new business, Lisa?
You briefly introduced Mackenzie earlier on. He will be covering my maternity leave. I will still be at the next Committee of Adjustment meeting in June, but that will be my last meeting that I will be attending, and then Mackenzie will be taking over.
Welcome, Mackenzie. Thank you. Anything from our, from you, Corinne, anything from building? Planners, any new business, anything you'd like to bring up?
Anything from me?
Great. Councilor Basie?
Yes, I've had a question from a resident here in town concerning an above ground pool and how it is considered a structure when it can be taken down, it can be moved, it can be, like, what's the difference between an above ground pool, like a good one, and one that I buy at Canadian Tire and put up? I didn't have an answer for it.
Okay, I'll ask our planners or ask Adam.
That sounds more like a. If you're referring.
Or we can ask Corinne.
It sounds like more
Right.
building.
Can you give me some more context? Is he like?
Right now,
to-
the one in question is a lot line. He's too close to it. Even though he's got a fence, you can't see the pool. It's adjacent a roadway, so it's not like it's, if he was closer to his neighbor, he's all right. Because he's close to the road, but he's not, because he's 30 feet from the road. We're asking him to move his pool.
So under your zoning bylaw, it does talk about swimming, private swimming pools, and they do have to.
I could understand
Accessory.
an in-ground pool, because it's basically a basement with full of water, right? It's an above ground pool.
It's swimming pool in general, that is the way that the zoning has been written. So if that's something you'd like to put in the comments for us to go through the zoning bylaws,
Please.
then we can certainly have another look at it. We have lots of stuff flagged in our binders that we need to bring forward.
As he said, what's the blow up ones you buy at Canadian Tire would be considered a structure.
They wouldn't be considered a swimming pool though. would
Swimming pool.
What would they be considered?
A pool is a certain depth as per our zoning bylaw. So if it states a certain depth, it's a swimming pool by definition.
So the fencing bylaw talks about what Jennifer's speaking about, and then our zoning bylaw is much more.
Yeah, and that's where he got caught, is he looked for, he's put the fence up,
Right.
finish up like the back of his lot, because the rest of it's already fenced. And that's when this all come to light, that
And these setbacks also, think about a corner lot and a pool showing up on a corner lot within a meter of a sidewalk. Right? They need to meet that exterior side yard setback, which would be the same as an accessory building. We need them similar to an accessory building, but we are fully cognizant they are private swimming pools. It's just in the zoning, it refers us to that section that talks about the setbacks where they're permitted, meaning i.e. not in your front yard as well.
I was just surprised it was considered a structure, that's all.
Were you guys gonna add something? Sorry.
So through your chair, yeah, so the definition of swimming pool private does, just reiterating what Corinne said, right, that it does refer us to section 3.3.4, which is for the same section you would use if you had an accessory structure. And it is a pretty general definition, but it does specifically state it is a structure. So located on privately owned property, but intended for swimming, essentially is the definition.
Councilor Base, anything else?
No, that's all I had.
Jennifer, anything under new business?
Nothing.
Les? Adam? And I don't have any new business. So we don't have any, we agreed with our planners, for all of our applications today, so we don't have any reasonings for our decision. Good job to our planners. I'd like to thank our technicians as well for the work that they've done, and once again, Mackenzie, welcome. And I'd like to acknowledge that we have our senior planner, Maria Cosa Rossi, here as well, and she's joined our team, so welcome as well.
Thank you.
At this time, I have a motion by Les Goldhawk, seconded by Nettie McEwen, that the Committee of Adjustments meeting be adjourned and the next meeting be scheduled for June the 11th, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. All those in favor? That motion is